Welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. With me, as always, is Michael Patrick Hicks.
Hello.
Matt Brandenburg.
I'm back from the Red House.
And the author of a previously covered story, Edstrom, Sean Thompson.
Hello. It is
Hi.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Thanks. Good for coming on. I mean, it feels good to come. I don't know. I am half awake, so.
Honestly, understandable.
Well, not really. I mean, it's 11 here, but.
So, on today's episode, we're going to be covering Velocity by Katha Koja, which is definitely going to be one hell of a discussion, I think.
Yes.
There's a lot in that little story.
It's wild. It's, I know we covered we covered Cypher. Cypher?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Cypher. Yep.
And she definitely has a style, which is all her own, and I love it. But yeah, this story is crazy pants.
Oh, yeah. I've read it and listened to it so many times now. And I don't know, it just doesn't get old for some reason.
I feel like there's layers. It's like an onion. You're just going to peel it back as the more you read it.
Also, I did think it would be funny to cover a story ostensibly about somebody getting interviewed when I am ostensibly being interviewed.
Very true.
Very true. That's awesome.
Well, before we dive into that, there's just some things that we like to give weekly recommendations of different media that we've either watched or read. I saw probably what's going to be in my top movies of the year list.
Uh-oh. This list feels like it gets really big.
I honestly watch a lot of movies that are kind of shit and don't really talk about. But this one, I saw Spine of Night.
What? I've never even heard of this.
That's the cartoon one, right?
Yeah, it's the rotoscoped one.
Oh.
So it's all rotoscope animation. It's kind of like a cosmic horror fantasy that's very reminiscent of like the heavy metal movie from the 1980s.
Nice. Where did you find this?
It's gonna be on Shudder in a few months. I have a digital copy of it.
What?
Yeah, you can rent it now or you can buy it now for $10 or rent it for $6. It'll be on Shudder, I think, in December, maybe.
Well, that's not too bad.
So either December or like January. The concept is it's this kind of like fantasy worlds, and there's this flower called the bloom. And when one kind of takes in the bloom, they unlock magical abilities in conjunction with it, but they also kind of see into the universe, open your third eye, if you will. And it kind of follows our protagonist, who is voiced by Lucy Lawless,
nice.
As she is talking to the Guardian, who is a human that protects humans from reaching the bloom. And they tell different stories of kind of the corruption and bad things Bloom has led humanity to. It is very gory. Like, no fucks given. Like, people's heads get cut up into pieces. There's people getting cut in half and their guts all flying out. They use full advantage if they can with animation to really push forward like the violence aspect of this.
Sounds like that Amazon show, not The Incredibles. What was it? Invincible.
No, it was totally The Incredibles.
It was totally The Incredibles.
Incredibles 3.
It's actually gorier than the Amazon show.
Oh, wow.
They go pretty far with the violence in this one. At the core of it, it's a cosmic horror story about kind of like how life technically has no meaning within the eyes of the universe. And what people do once they receive that information about the meaninglessness of existence. And
sounds like
it gets pretty
picker-upper.
Just in time for Christmas. Yeah.
It's the perfect family watch, 5 out of 5.
Yeah. That sounds like a good one for Thanksgiving.
Just, sit around with the family, eating some turkey.
Yeah. Get you in the spirit.
Totally.
Also,
how's the rotoscoping? Sorry.
Oh, the rotoscoping's great.
Awesome.
The animation, there's one segment in the movie that's like one of the best animated sequences I've seen all year.
Nice.
Animation's truly breathtaking. And Patton Oswalt has a nice little role in it too. It's a really good movie. You can get it digitally right now, but it will hit Shudder sooner rather than later.
Cool.
So I would highly recommend checking it out.
All right.
But Mike, what about you?
Well, I've been sicker and shit all week and still not entirely over it. What little I did read or watch has all been kind of lost in a feverish fugue. And I don't fucking remember anything I did other than sleep.
You don't remember making that movie in rotoscope?
I can't talk about that movie. That one might get blocked by some filters at work if you look for it. So Matt, it's just going to be turned over to you.
All right, Matt.
We'll have to look on the dark web. Hick's Mighty Adventures.
Yeah, the deep dark web.
I prefer not to.
Oh my God. Oh man, if anyone's got screen grabs, post them up. So yes, I feel like it's been forever since I've been here, but I know it's probably only been like one episode. But in that time, I read a lot. I think we want to talk about this, but real quick, I will say Man, Fuck This House by Bryan Asman is amazing. I mean, just the title alone. It was funny because we were traveling and I was a little nervous on the plane with having that cover out, but then I was like, whatever, it's cool. People can read this title. They're adults. It's a haunted house story. And, you know, again, I think we'll cover it, but just the basic idea of they twist everything around. So he kind of leads you down at first one trail where you're like, okay, I've read haunted house and or seen haunted house movies before. I know where this is going. There's a creepy kid, but then because it's him, he quickly changes everything and makes it completely different. Total bizarro at the end. You just like, I mean, I read, oh my goodness, what's the space one? I'm drawing a complete blank. But anyway, I read one of his other ones, and that one was like super bonkers. But this one, like, he kind of reined it in a little bit. You're like, I'm seeing him grow as a writer. And so like, it's still got his humor in it, but then there's just a little bit more depth to it and just a little bit more of a story that he's just not focusing kind of say on like more of the cheap tricks of funny jokes all the time. This one has a little bit more in it. So yeah, it's amazing. And I hope we cover it because I would love to talk about it more.
I mean, we will be covering Man, Fuck This House in a later episode of this podcast.
Good.
And Bryan Asman has confirmed he will be a guest later on this podcast.
Awesome.
Right. Finalizing dates, so I can't say anything else. But
so keep an eye out for a censored iTunes title for an episode coming soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Great title.
Yeah.
It's a really good title.
There is a titular line. Somebody does actually say it. So it's pretty awesome.
Do they describe them staring into the camera when they do it?
I mean, he should. It's pretty much just staring up at us and saying it.
Man, fuck this house.
I as I was reading it, it gets to a point and I'm like, there's no way he's going to do what he's doing, but he does. So
is there actual house fucking in this one?
No, this is not the House Gods one.
Okay. I just had to clarify because I know your reading taste sometimes, Matt. So I just wanted to.
I'll just say spoilers. I don't want to give anything away.
All right, Sean. Anything from your end?
Let me see here. I rewatched The Medium on Shudder.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty sick.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's somehow even more fun on a second watch. I think as you kind of, well, I can't spoil it, but yeah, you sort of know where it's going.
So you kind of see all the little like clues leading to where it's going to go.
Yeah. Let me think. In terms of what I'm reading, I mean, I run a press, so a lot of my reading just becomes that by default.
Understandable.
Yeah, but let me think. Yeah, I'm blanking on specifically. Oh, I'm reading Negative Space by B.R. Yeager.
Yeah.
That's a great
That's a
book.
favorite here.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's the ebook, so I'm not entirely sure how far in I am. I think I'm about 100 pages. I don't know. It says like 1,000, whatever. But
Yeah, right. It's always hard to judge. It's like you're at page 3,000 and there's 10,000.
According to the little bar, I'm almost halfway. So.
All right,
Man.
perfect.
That book is bleak.
Yeah, it's a bleak one. I love it though.
I've never been able to figure out what that Kindle location means.
Me
That
neither.
1181 of 7,212. Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
I
What
wish
is
I
that?
knew.
Lines, characters, what? What is that? Words?
I think it's like a data for the page location,
It's just some weird.
but it doesn't
obscure-
mean anything to us. It just means
No.
something to the Kindle program.
It's meaningless.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
what?
glad they let me know about the programming process.
When
Thanks, guys. Don't tell me 100 or like 120. Just make sure to let me know the exact numerical information for the programming.
when I was looking for the for Velocity, when I was just judging how long it was, the Kindle edition, it's like it looked like it was like 300 pages, and I was like, holy crap!
No, it's not that long.
Yeah, it's not. But again, the weird location numbers, when you kind of compare it, I was just like, oh man, I better start now. And then when I read it, I was like, wait, this is a lot shorter.
No, I intentionally picked a shorter story.
It was just so yeah. Kindle likes to mess with us.
But yeah, that's about all I can, I guess, talk about. Yeah.
That Negative Space,
I mean, I know this shouldn't be the takeaway, but I'm like, I kind of want to try that weird drug.
right?
Maybe not like cut myself so much, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever the world does to you, man, we'll find out.
Just to see the black lines once.
Well, I will say I have a habit, as our listeners and our podcast co-hosts like to give me shit for, where I kind of start books and then I don't really have a follow-through.
The hell you say?
I've got roughly 20 that are just sitting in various parts of my house,
And
like
I
in
think,
various states. Like this one's 150, this one's a 200, but like none of them are actually finished.
I think a lot of it has to do with like mood reading and like, yeah, it's a good story, but am I in the mood for this story?
This is an assault on my and Matt's character that you're doing right now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Assassination.
I know.
This is
Uncool.
libel.
We have it on record now.
Is this going to turn into like a Twitter drama that was going over the last couple weeks?
There's always Twitter drama. I don't
That's
think.
Yeah.
I think this is Twitter in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's what it stands for.
so I think I
But I am
mentioned
going
this.
to at you being like, this man can't finish a book. Exclamation point,
This man can't read. What is he doing hosting a podcast?
I never learned to read.
Says he hates books.
I
How
just
dare
wanted
he?
to be cool.
He does hate books. It's crazy.
He just wants the instant fame of having a podcast.
Genocide.
Or just sound cool because he's reading all these books.
Gives him an excuse to tag 50 people in every one of his tweets.
That's what I do on my Instagram.
Hey,
dude. I just go
that
to
is-
a bookstore and take pictures with various books. And be like, I read this. I also read this. Go through
That
the
mess-
whole like stack. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my home library, not a Barnes and Noble.
That mass
I just kind
tagging
of
thing.
I blur out the employees in the background.
Yeah. Just say they're relatives that have to wear name tags.
Like CG in a really shitty looking fireplace.
I will say that mass tagging thing is not something I do.
Sure.
I've
I
never
just want
done
to know
that.
what, like, I mean, no shade, but my God, that must take a lot of time.
What, to tag 50 people?
Especially on a phone.
I never
Yeah.
tag more than like 5 people at any given time.
Same. The only time I tag people is if it's relevant to the tweet.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm
I like
not-
to
I'm
just
not
tag
Mike
all
over.
of my followers.
Over here.
Every single
Tag.
tweet.
The tweet's a tag. The tweet's just
Eat
tag.
a sandwich, and then it's like 200 people.
S.A. Cosby, check out this killer sandwich I had.
I just tag brands.
GE, check out these killer chicken McNuggets that I got at McDonald's.
CBS, I like pickles.
At BR Yeager. You know what isn't a negative space? Burger King. And then I'm just doing a selfie with a Whopper.
That should be a Big Mac just to be even more crazy.
Like, what did you read my book or not, dude?
The real king is at Neil Gaiman.
at Matthew Bartlett, listening to WXXT at my local Wendy's.
Oh, I love it.
Twitter's fun. We love it.
We love all you people out there, I promise.
So
I apologize in advance for tagging BR Yeager.
No, never apologize. Just tag and go. I think back in September, I might have mentioned this book I started, and then because of my mood reading that I do, I kind of put it aside. And it is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff.
Yeah, I have no idea if you did.
I picked it back up the other day, and I am fucking hooked this time around. I am at page 225 out of fucking Christ.
What's the location number?
I have the hardcover in front of me.
Oh, I'll just
734 pages.
Damn.
And it's a hardcover.
All right.
So it's a door stopper. And it's fully illustrated too, which you don't really see too often. The concept of the book is pretty much like take The Witcher and blend it with Interview with a Vampire. And that's this book. It takes place in a fictional fantasy kingdom. And one day, and it mentions in the beginning, it's not a spoiler, one day the sun sets and it never rises again.
Oh.
And vampires kind of come out of the woodwork and begin to take over the land.
Because that's usually where they hang out, is in wood.
They hang out somewhere, but now they are plentiful and taking over everything.
What the fuck happened to the sun?
I don't know.
That's your takeaway?
Yeah.
That's kind of sweet, though. It's just like, no, it's gone. I'm not gonna
so it went down. It never came back up.
That doesn't happen. That's not right.
Isn't that like that one movie? Isn't there not? And I'm not talking about 30 Days a Night, but isn't there like a Denzel Washington or a Lawrence Fishburne movie where that happens?
Probably.
Maybe.
I'm trying to.
Either way,
like
I'm questioning the scientific rigor of this story you're reading.
So is the planet just covered in snow and ice?
A lot of the places in the planet are very snowy right now. But like I said,
I'm talking about our planet.
Like
I don't have vampires in my woodwork. Maybe cockroaches.
You might want to double check that, Matt. Anyway,
I mean, that would be a pain in the ass if you tried to do the scientific research, though, because like if the sun did actually just disappear, like so much stuff would happen that I think would get in the way of the narrative.
Yeah, you're going to have bigger problems than just vampires.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's what we call a mass extinction event.
I mean, like...
And every plant died, the end.
Yeah. Or like, would gravity go away, then just the planets would just fly away? It's crazy.
They don't...
Yeah.
Again, I'm still...
Sorry.
You can't just disappear a whole fucking sun.
Okay, let's move on.
No, I want to know more. Sorry.
I'm kind of done at this point, guys. I'm still early on the book. Whatever.
Is it?
So I'm enjoying it so far. But
I mean, it sounds neat. Is it good? All right. Is it like? Will there be more than one? I mean, I guess you're not done.
It's a trilogy that's planned.
Okay, nice.
So like this is book 1. I'm still early on the book, so like. Narrative wise, I'm only on page 225 out of 734.
Okay.
So it's still a lot of setup stuff that's going on with questions that I can't answer.
Okay.
That's fair.
So they can kind of there's still room that they can explain.
This is true.
Yeah, and
Okay.
like the whole setup of the narrative is the main character is Gabriel Delon, and he is at the start of the book he's the last vampire hunter, and he has been imprisoned, and in Interview with the Vampire kind of style, he is telling his story of his life to be like chronicled.
Oh.
Or anything to come after. And the rest of the book is like his story from his childhood to like where he is currently.
Nice.
And that's kind of how the book is told. So far, it's really good. I can't like get too much into like why these things happen because they haven't been told in the narrative yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
When did it come out?
September.
Oh, nice. So it's like brand new.
Yeah, it's new.
Crazy.
And yeah, my only criticism really is some of the dialogue is kind of like over the top.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of funny, but like every like 3 pages of people calling each other like fuck faces and stuff. I'm like, what? Yeah, fuckface is used a shit ton in this book.
Oh my god.
And like the author's trying to get creative with profanity sometimes. And it's just like you're just trying to like be edgy for the sake of it. But it's still a fun read. Like,
so it's not like made up curse words then.
no, it's not made
that's
up.
good.
There's a couple made up insults that are in the kind of world itself, but overall it's like modern regular curse words that you see a lot of.
That's good.
Yeah, so far like it's a really good book. I should have it done by next week, depending on how fast I've been reading it. But we'll see. It is a big boy.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But unlike the ceremonies, shit actually happens in every chapter.
Oh, that's good. God.
I haven't read that one yet. I've heard it's good, but yeah.
I mean, like, well, we discussed it a while back, and it's, I don't know, I would love to hear somebody's take that actually liked it because it's a big one, and a lot of nothing happens.
I asked someone I knew who read that book back in the 80s. And I go, okay, did you read the ceremonies back when it came out? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, what did you like about it? And he just said, you didn't like it? And I said, no, not really. And he just said, people these days don't have the attention span to deal with books like that. I'm like, no. You tell me what you liked about it. Like, you said
There's
you
some
liked
books
it.
like that make the rounds, though, where I'm convinced no one actually has read them or liked them, but like enough people say they have and that it's good that they just can't. They have to lie about it at this point.
Yeah. If I say this book was good, maybe he'll buy me a sandwich or something later. This is my end of the publishing industry.
This is my end.
Yeah.
If I tag him.
Tag Burger King. And then
Tag Burger King. Maybe the King will publish me.
Dude, I'd love to have a book from Burger King. That'd be weird as hell.
They would give it away.
It's like a completely branded tie-in, so randomly, just a regular horror book, but then they're like, man, thank God we found another Burger King. Let's go get a delicious Whopper and then fight more of these demons.
It'd be like Mac and Me, but for Burger King.
Gonna have to change that title, though.
True. Just call it King and Me.
Yeah.
There you go. That would be pretty easy.
Yeah.
It'd be a Whopper of a tale.
There's a cover blurb.
That's so amazing.
Anyway, yeah, get at me, Burger King.
We'll make this.
I am oddly referencing Burger King way too much. Maybe I'm hungry. I don't know.
Well, see, and you can even help them by having the evil thing be a clown, and then you'd be set up.
Maybe a clown and like a redheaded girl with pigtails.
Yes. I love
and an old Southern gentleman. This sucks. I don't want to write this.
That would be so awesome.
You'll never get my secret recipe.
Okay.
It'd be fun as a short story and you like don't tell anybody and just ease into it. By the end, everyone's just like, what the fuck?
This This is serious literature, goddammit.
This is hardcore. When your line is like, you could take your secret recipe to hell. Oh, man. I love this. This is perfect.
Does anyone else have any recommendations?
I could burn through like a couple real quick. I read Flowers for the Sea, Zinni Rocklin. Amazing. It's just this dreamy future story of people the world is basically just all water, and they're on a boat, and then there's these monsters, and it's just
So like Waterworld, but not bad.
Yeah. So it's like Waterworld meets like Lovecraft.
Hey, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, it's so super cool. Definitely get that one. I've read this really old Penguin classic that actually Nicole Cushing recommended a long time ago. It's called The Adventures of Simplicissimus by this very long German name, and the book was written back in the 1600s and is basically on this 30-year war that happened over in Germany around that time. It is surprisingly like current in a lot of the commentary regarding religion and what religion makes people do. I mean, if you're a history buff, you know the 30-year war was basically just a war for religion between the way Germany and Christians and I think Protestants. I can't remember for sure, but it lasted literally 30 years and like it's like the worst war. The most people died in that war than in any other war. But anyway, the story is absolutely absurd and bonkers. It follows this character named Simplicissimus. He actually didn't even have a name. Somebody just gave that to him because he's an idiot. He's just simple person. He lived like with his family in the middle of nowhere, never interacted with anybody, and so he didn't know how to act with people. And then some soldiers came, attacked his farm, and then they took him captive. And so it's just the first part, just forewarning if anyone wants to read it, first part's a little intense because they one, he's an idiot, so he doesn't know what's happening, but the soldiers are there and they're taking advantage of his the help in very horrible ways, and he's just like, I don't know what they're doing. They're in this room, and the servant, she seems not happy about it and stuff like that. So you're just like, holy crap. But then it's just him bouncing around, and he like joins both sides of the war at one point or another. He becomes this kind of like mythical Robin Hood type character where everyone knows who he is, and he's like killing all these people, and at points he's in this like king's court as like a jester, and he doesn't know any better, so he just farts everywhere, or he just like shits in the middle of like a party and just doesn't know that that's the wrong thing to do, or he like steals food, or he like vomits on people. At one point, like this group of people like kidnap him, and they're all in devil masks, and they're keeping him awake and getting him drunk, like kind of trying to torture him, not letting him sleep. But like he gets to a point where he's just like, well, I didn't know what to do anymore, so I just vomited all over them and they let me go. So it's just absolutely bonkers. And like, again, written in the 1600s, you're just like, what is happening? It's like super crazy. So yeah, that's a fun one. It's a Penguin classic if you want to look it up. And then finally, I'm about halfway through Halloween Kills movie novelization. I don't know if any of you three have seen the movie yet.
I haven't.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, there's some mixed things in there. There's some good stuff. It's like a really good slasher. It just, I don't know. They did some really dumb like just weird things and made some choices that nobody likes. And I agree after watching it. But novelization's been a lot of fun to read. Tim Wagner wrote it, and he added some interesting choices in there because of when he got the script as opposed to when they actually filmed it. So anyway, it's really good. So those are all my recommendations.
Sounds good to me.
I would like to give a quick shout out to, I read the novel, well, it's not a novelization, but Brian Evanson did an Alien novel, like a tie-in kind of thing.
He did?
And that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's a full-fledged novel. It might be a novella.
What?
I know he did a Dead Space one.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the. It's like Exit. Exit something, I think.
Oh man, I have to look that up.
Yeah, me too.
We're gonna have to find that.
Well, I know he did Lords of Salem with Rob Zombie.
Alien No Exit.
No Exit, that was it.
Oh, snap.
And I think, I bought the Kindle version, and it was like, it was attached with one other one, I think.
Good deal.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I this one down.
I wanted just the Bryan Evanson one, but that wasn't, I couldn't find it. Under a certain amount.
Yeah, it's actually going to be credited under B.K. Evanson.
Right. That's his, I don't know what you call it, actually.
That's his pseudonym when he does
property name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to B.K. Evanson when he's doing like property work or like tie-in stuff. Because he did like the Lords of Salem tie-in novel as B.K. Evanson.
Yep.
He did.
I'm refraining as hard as I can from making another Burger King joke.
I know, it's right there.
It's a BK Lounge.
I am just picturing him like, what should I go by? And then he's just like at Burger King, he's like, wait, I got it.
I got a great idea. Genius. And then he gives the king a high five. I feel like they made a video game with the Burger King King.
I mean,
they did. It was for Xbox 360. They were selling games at Burger King.
Oh my gosh, I need to find that. That sounds amazing.
They made a KFC like romance game a couple of years ago.
How does that work?
It's a romance novel. It's called Wings of Desire.
Did it focus on the Colonel?
I don't remember.
I don't know. I have it on my Kindle, but I never read it.
They also did like a short Lifetime movie.
With
A.C. Slater was the Colonel.
Yeah.
Was it about him falling in love with his chicken?
Yeah.
That was a woman.
It would have been
but everything is framed around him like making KFC, basically.
Yeah.
Was it a true story?
I don't think so, but
the truest.
It's true-ish, I guess.
I mean, well, he had like 25 secret flavors, and she gave him the other 1 or 2 or however many it is. And he's like, "It's love." Oh my gosh, I want to read that.
I don't know how I've steered this so wrong. I'm sorry. I just apparently have way too much knowledge of obscure tie-in properties for fast food.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of So I Married an Axe Murderer when he's like, the Colonel, he puts like an addictive chemical in his chicken to make you crave it fortnightly, smart ass. Oh man, perfect 90s movie.
Well,
anyway.
I think we're going to need to kind of make fast food horror become a thing.
I feel like there was a call at one point for a fast food horror
anthology. There was a pizza anthology.
Yeah, there was a pizza one.
Oh man, we do need to.
Priestley Strangler was already taken.
I know, that would be perfect.
That fucking movie almost made me vomit. Like, I'm not normally that bad with stuff, but just seeing that much grease is just
it's
like,
a lot of grease.
And like bathing in grease. Ugh.
It's a lot of grease.
That sounds repulsive.
Oh yeah, that sounds horrible.
I love the movie. The movie is something else.
Well, you know what else was something else?
Was it Velocity?
It was Velocity.
Nice.
Hey, however you do the segue, it works.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy you a Frosty.
Learned how to segue from Rich.
We're done now.
That's a wrap.
Yes, but Velocity, Kathy Koja. It is sort of like the title story. I think the collection is called Velocities, but
yes,
yeah, the collection is called Velocities: Stories.
Yeah.
Just in case you were looking it up.
That is the grammatical, the punctuation : it's not called colon stories.
It's a punctuation :
That could be the fast.
It's stylized as like velocities.
Yeah.
But I think it's just velocities.
Kathy Koja's colon stories.
Colon stories.
Okay, right now we're gonna have to make an anthology for fast food stories called colon stories.
I'm sorry, Kathy. I really meant this to be a normal conversation. We'll eventually get to a normal conversation.
Oh man,
it comes and goes on this podcast.
That's fair. I have listened to the episodes.
She's like, if you made it this far, thank you.
I don't think she. I think she tried to skip ahead.
Yes.
Anyway, Velocity is very much a Kathy Koja story. Like,
oh yeah,
you can't really. Her voice, I should say, her voice is instantly recognizable. Like, you can tell you're reading a Kathy Koja story as soon as you start. As somebody who's only read the Cipher before, even I'm like, yep, this is Kathy.
Yeah.
But what makes you pick this story for us, Sean?
I mean, it was a tough call. Like, I love the whole collection, but admittedly, like, a lot of them are that sort of like, and I like this, but a lot of them are this sort of kind of vague horror that may or may not be real, you know? Like, there's one about some guy that, I don't know, he's just in love with some woman, and they go to a club where they have, like, amateur boxing with the people in the audience, and he ends up, like, beating the shit out of someone, and, like, that's the whole story. I mean, when you say them like that, they sound like, but it's a great, but yeah, there's a ton of great stories in there, and there's, like, one about this woman who, I mean, no spoilers, but, like, she adopts a dog, but then stuff gets really weird. And there's all sorts of stuff like that, and I really loved all of them, but the one that stuck with me, I think, the most was Velocity, because it's this kind of short, like, gut punch of a story. And I just love I'm a sucker for interesting, like, framing devices, and I love the whole, like, I'm interviewing someone, and, you know, this is slowly getting worse and worse.
This person is becoming more unstable with each question I ask.
Well, and my first question is, like, how long did this interview take? Because it feels like, so if somebody hasn't read this yet, because it's a question and answer interview, so it's just Q&A, so you don't know actually who's asking the questions, but throughout there's these, like, descriptions of the place. So they're in this house called the Red House, and so anyway, it feels like, because every section, it almost feels like the question and answer sort of stops. Like our character, was it Ben? Not Ben, Mr. Volkovich.
I don't remember what his first
Volkovich.
name was.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I felt like they had a name, but anyway, Volkovich like kind of gets mad, and then it seems like the interview stops, and then it jumps into the description of the Red House, and then they start back up. So, is this in the course of a day? Is this in the course of a couple days?
I thought it was something like he would interview him and then get kicked out and have to leave and then come back the next day. But I guess it could have been in one day.
Yeah,
that's so. I read it that way too, where it was just like he would get kicked out at the end of each interview and then he'd come back the next day.
Yeah.
They mentioned certain things. Like, there's one line about how he's like, his speech is slurred today, which makes me think he has, like, left and come back. Because, like, if it was the same day, I don't think he'd be mentioning that.
Yeah.
It seems to me it took place over several days at least.
Which is, and that's kind of where I was thinking. It's interesting to think that like kept happened. Like, they kept kind of coming back for this interview, and they kept like the way the questions. It's an interesting idea of, like, this person that keeps going back, even though Mr. Volkovich is getting crazier and crazier.
I mean, I think part of it is just like he probably didn't agree to get interviewed by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then also his father was apparently this fairly big deal, and there was this very like public suicide. So I could see somebody like going back, at least for the first couple times.
Yeah.
I love how like the descriptions, especially in the beginning, it's just like we get the description of the house and then all the broken bicycles.
Yes.
And it's just like, the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it'd be scary, but I'm also like, but if I showed up at a house and there was nothing but broken bicycles, that would be kind of creepy.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, what the fuck is this?
Especially because the house sounds like it, especially that first section, it sounds like it's this broken down house and nobody's taking. It's funny because it seemed like nobody was sort of taking care of it, but then we find out later somebody has been. But there's like
literally they go and clean it, but then they have to put all the bikes back.
Yeah. And like there's this big chain around the front door. So yeah, it's totally, you're like, what is happening at this place?
I pictured it.
Like how,
I don't know if it's on a hill, but I thought it might be because they mentioned switchbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like how we learned his art project is him trying to test velocity by crashing bicycles into trees at different angles.
Yes.
And then you find out that like it's related to his father's suicide.
Yes.
And that's when things like really kind of begin to get kind of what the fucky with this story.
I like that it's even gotten to the point of so much excess that the bike salesman has cut him off.
Yes.
Like, we're not selling you any more bikes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to figure this man's bought, like, what, 50 bikes or more?
Yeah.
So probably by bike 20, you're like, what the hell are you doing with these?
Especially when he comes back and his arm's in a sling or he can't walk.
He's also getting more fucked up each time. So.
It's just like, dude, you need to stop with the bikes.
That guy's probably like, I don't want to get sued, so I'm going to stop selling you bikes.
It's like a bartender, you don't have to go home, but you can't buy bikes here.
Yeah.
I love how, this is sort of an aside, but I love how triumphantly near the end the narrator, Vukovich goes, he won't sell them to me anymore, but I can buy them anywhere. And it's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
We needed like a closing scene, like at the end of It, where the guy's on Silver riding down the street with his arms up in the air.
Yeah.
Hi-ho, Silver!
Yeah. So this guy's got
picturing like in a year a very frustrated Amazon employee, like, Jesus Christ, another bike?
Yeah. I gotta go up this giant hill to deliver it, damn it.
Again.
Oh, this yeah, it's like just Amazon Prime. Come on.
But yeah, man. I mean, it's just, I love the way it unfolds because it does start as a more or less normal kind of interview with an artist.
Yeah.
And, Vukovich, the artist, is very, like, glib and flippant, like, just basically like, you suck. What are you doing here?
Yeah. Why are you asking me these dumb questions?
Well, especially once he gets into the question with his father, he gets super aggressive towards Vukovich and super aggressive towards the interviewer. Or he's just like, the fuck do you think this is?
Yeah, it's something to the effect of like, I thought you were here to talk about my art, and clearly you just want to talk about my dad.
Yeah.
My more successful dead dad.
So he's like, let's just do it. Well, and it's interesting because like, and I'm flipping back and forth through it, and it, especially when you kind of get to the end and you realize, well, sort of maybe what's happening. There's like a line when the questioner is like, and since your father was a famous man, and since his death, and then the answer is like, he didn't die, he killed himself. And I feel like that's almost like a double meaning, because by the time you get to the end, spoilers, you're like, is his dad dead? Did like, he's like floating around like as this weird ghost thing. And so I was like, well, that's interesting, because like it totally like kind of gives you an idea of like something more weird is happening, and we're already kind of figuring it out pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, she does deftly play around with the possibility that Vukovich just could be profoundly mentally ill.
Yeah, she toes that line between mental illness and ghost story very, very well.
Which I think it reminded me of like The Haunting of Hill House, where like there is an interpretation of Haunting of Hill House where nothing happens, and it's just a more or less mentally ill woman. And I do love that, but I do also choose to think that stuff does happen because I don't know. There's a line about how his mother died in a fire in a horse barn, and that seems like a weird. Like, I don't know, maybe if you were smoking a cigarette in there and tripped, but like there's a lot of stuff that would have to happen for you to burn alive in a horse barn.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then just all the description of this house and the way this house is built a certain way, like with this red dining room and just it's like modern, but like old modern kind of thing. It just feels like it was built for a certain purpose, and that's kind of like as you go you kind of realize like the dad might have been into some more darker stuff, and maybe that's why the house was built a certain way. So that was in my head. I always kind of assumed that the dad did kind of transcend and is in like some weird ghost world.
Yeah, I mean there's a great line where Vukovich is saying like he was somewhere and this woman came up and showed me pictures. I think it's implied the pictures are of this woman and his dad having sex.
Yeah.
But she showed me these pictures, and he goes like, my father like wasn't human. He kind of didn't care to be human. He was more like an insect, like a praying mantis or a scorpion.
Yes.
Which I think is a great like kind of description of someone who's just like completely sociopathic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a brilliant visual on what this guy was like. And we don't get a very positive picture of the father through
No, he like beat his mom with belts and clearly was cheating on his mother and was sort of not supportive of his son's art, even though he tried to buy a piece at one point.
Yeah. And his son like refused to let his father buy it.
Yeah, what was that piece? It was something heresy, I think. I'm trying to look because there was something about that piece that he wanted.
All it says is I'm on the page right now. Is right heresy. It was one of the first things they did at Mary's. It was like a ski run with these little. You've seen it, right? Photographs of it, yes. It was an extraordinary installation. The almost insane sense of speed of uncontrolled velocity. So that's kind of all we really get of it.
Which is interesting because of him, what he's doing with the bikes currently and the way his dad died. So it's interesting that the dad was even obsessed with that concept of this like velocity thing. So it's craziness.
There's a very telling line though where he says at one point, my mother always said, don't let him have anything he can use against you.
Yeah.
And he has this sort of like, just mumbles about like voodoo.
Yes.
And it made me think like maybe it was more than just wanting to actually buy his son's art. Like maybe it was to get like some sort of tangible thing from his son.
There's that segment with the phones that if we take it as being a literal, factual incident that happened is really fucking creepy.
Right. It's very revealed too because it's like, oh, someone was prank calling. I thought they were prank calling like my art studio or where I would make my art. And then he started calling me at home and the interviewer was like, oh, is the number not listed? And he's like, we don't have a phone.
Yeah. But I'm hearing the ring and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he ends up having to sleep in the yard to get away from the ringing.
I thought that was interesting too. So like he was living in the laundry room?
Yeah, it seems like he moved out all the washing machines and is just living in the laundry room.
So that like because there's this again for listeners, there's a description of like this laundry room, but everything's out, but it's just like a sleeping bag and a shelf above the sleeping bag and like a like a camp stove and all this stuff. So it's just this little tiny thing, and it's interesting because we get hints that like or ideas that like our Mr. Vukovich like didn't live like he was living in Germany, like he wasn't like he must have just came home after the death, I think. And so it's interesting that he chose to sleep in the laundry room as opposed to say any of the other rooms.
I mean, I choose to think of that as they go out of their way, Kathy goes out of her way to talk about a lot of the rooms being red.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and they don't mention that for the laundry room. So I wonder if it's almost like the laundry room's a safe zone and like a lot of the house isn't. Because it's like, it makes no sense that he would just choose to sleep in just one specific laundry room for this entire huge house. And he also seems like he's got money. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where I was like, I was trying to figure that out. Or like, was the room set up for did a hobo break into the house or something and is sleeping in his little area? Or is it him? It's never really implied who's sleeping in it because, again, it's just a description. So we assume it's him. There's even like a shotgun, sawed-off shotgun. And so it's just this it's just this very weird kind of thing to like think about. And I guess it kind of going to the idea of him, maybe it's not a ghost. Maybe it's just him. His mind is just gone. So maybe like pick the, like a little cave to hide in. So I mean, it's either he's like profoundly mentally ill and nothing else is happening, or he's profoundly mentally ill and lots of like supernatural stuff.
Yeah, right.
But either way, there's no interpretation where he's a little whacked.
Yeah, right.
I think he's sleeping with a sawed-off shotgun and like a cross made of like nails and like. I think there's just like an old sleeping bag and like a camp stove and then a book about art.
He's just a tad bit off his rocker.
Yes.
Oh, and a pink like flashlight.
Yes.
He's just an eccentric artist. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I'm looking to to go back to talking about the mom and the horse dying, and it even mentions he's like, well, he came for me when I was in Germany, but then he doesn't say what happened. It's just like something happened and he's trying to kill me.
What I think I've read this a bunch of times now, and there's no proof of this, but I'm wondering if he didn't try to like set where he was staying on fire.
Yeah.
Which would like tie in with like the red house and like the very last line about how, like, when you see the house at a certain time of day, it looks like a beating heart. And there's a lot of, like, red imagery.
Yes.
But it could be anything, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Especially when you start, like, even then digging deeper about the dad crawling through the pipes and everything like that.
That's, like, my favorite part of the whole story. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're doing spoilers, so it doesn't... But, I mean, so we get to this point in the interview, and he's like, he doesn't want me letting you interview me. I heard him last night crawling around in the pipes. I'm afraid to take a shit because what if he crawls into my ass?
Yeah.
And it's so absurd, but it's also so like, if it's true, it's so terrifying. Like, what would happen if a ghost crawled up your ass?
Right. And that even goes because the section before it is what goes back to what we were saying kind of near the beginning, where there's people taking care of the house and they're picking up the bikes and cleaning and then putting the bikes back. But she specifically mentions in the laundry rooms avoid it unless there's actual damage needing repair, which then goes to, at least my thought is, was he checking the pipes, or was he sitting there thinking that his dad was in the walls and that's why he was like bashing up the walls and then the cleaners had to come in and fix it. It's like
I don't know. And then that makes you wonder, like, is he shitting in a bucket? Like, how is he going to the bathroom then?
I feel like they did mention that because I was wondering that too. There's something like, oh, where is it? It's
it might just be implied.
Yeah, but it's just like it's cool because she just like literally gives you just this little bit of a sentence, and you're like, whoa, wait, what does this mean?
And I just love too that it's like, okay, normal enough interview. Okay, this interview is getting a little weirder. All right, now it's really weird. And then, oh, hey, look, he's got a gun.
Yeah.
Well, I just like how that part unfolds too, like with the whole gun part, when they're just talking and he's like, the interviewer is just like, Mr. Vukovich, you're very upset. We better stop this now. We better just, and then he just goes, you see this gun? It's like, oh my God, look, I'm leaving now. I can't. No, take it, and hold it on me like this. Hold it. That's right. You sit there and you hold it. And if he crawls out of my mouth, you shoot him. Hear me? Shoot that motherfucker in the head.
Yeah.
So just the image too of this poor interviewer like holding a gun on this guy, like, am I done yet? Can we stop? Can I go?
Oh God. I know, it's funny. He's like, he's like, I think we need to reschedule this. And he's like, no, wait, do you hear that?
He tries to like, he tries to segue back into like, so your new piece. This is also, you're picturing multiple days of him like, he burned my mom alive and killed her horse, and he's the devil. You can't kill the devil. And then like eventually he's like, all right, well, you've got a new installation, right?
Yeah. Tell me about this new installation.
It's like desperately trying to reel it back, and it's like, no, it's not.
You can only kill the devil with silver bullets.
And there's a great thing they do in the audiobook version, and I don't know if that's like canon or not, because it's open to interpretation, but the narrator, he'll do an English voice for the interviewer, and then like an American voice for Vukovich.
Oh.
So it's like this kind of austere British, like, Mr. Vukovich, and then when it switches back, it's just like, if you see the motherfucker, shoot him in the head. So it also gives it that sort of like, you know, classy British, and then just like skeevy American living in a laundry room. But I love Kathy Koch's work, but I think that's my favorite thing about her work is like, she just like loves to write about working class people that are like off their nut.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, it's usually because there's some supernatural fuckery involved.
Yeah.
I need to read more of her stuff, but I just loved how grimy the cipher was.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it just gets so gross. I mean, I think there was a Blumpkin in it.
Yeah.
And I remember like reading that, like, for real? Like, like checking off a box. Like, wow.
Oh my God.
I'm not trying to emphasize that. Like, it's a great book that has all sorts of stuff in it, but that definitely was like, wow.
Well, that's why Matt liked it so much.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't put me into that. Oh my God.
But yeah, just like, she really gets into like just grimy people and places in excellent ways.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe you can help, because we were talking about this right before we called you, is the ending. I can't tell if there's like, is there another story tied to this? Because it feels like it just sort of ends.
No, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't another story. I think that's just how it ends.
It's so good, just wild, because like, yeah, it for listeners again.
It gives me some like interesting questions too, of like, so I assume that this is in a magazine or something, you know, because of the interstitial pieces. So I assume the interviewer lived.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that it's like, we go from him holding a gun on this guy to like, anyway, this is also more description of the house.
Exactly. That's where I was like, wait, what? It's just, and like,
I pictured it as like, you know, just like an interview in a magazine. So like, they didn't want to end with that. So like, anyway, back to the house.
I do love the last sentence when it's like, but if one arrives at almanac's sundown, the house will indeed be glowing as hot and red and chambered as a beating heart.
Yeah.
And I love that final paragraph. Like, the house comes across as like a demonic entity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, like, especially this part, looking back through the rest of it, that's kind of where I was wondering about, like, did the dad do this thing on purpose for, like, this house is built a certain way? Because it's described as like a beating heart, but it's like the way it's placed, the arrangements of trees and everything was very specific, and like the sun, it's such an interest. Like, I love that description of almanac sundown, or it's like, because he's talking about guests coming throughout the story. These descriptions, guests used to come and look at this house because it's so interesting, and then
right, and they get confused because it's called the Red House, and like the outside is just like gunmetal gray and glass, like glass.
Yeah.
Inside there are like red rooms, but it would be weird to show up to a place called the Red House and it's just gray.
Yeah. So it's just like it's definitely leaves open to interpretation, because you're just like, well, what does that mean? Why is the house this beating heart? What does that have to do with velocity? It's just,
I mean, it did remind me, I'm blanking on the title now, but there's a Clive Barker short story where it's essentially, it's like someone builds a certain style of house to try to lure the devil or something.
Yeah.
I'll have to track it down and let you guys know the title, but it's a great story, but it reminded me of maybe a more overt version of what this does a little more subtly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I love this story. Like, it's so, it's so creepy on so many levels.
Yeah,
I mean, even just the body horror level of like, this poor guy is like, he breaks his arm, breaks his leg. Like, he says his shin never got like put back in place correctly.
All because these guys keep doing this. He doesn't say why, but he needs to keep riding his bike.
At one point he goes, you think I like doing the same piece over and over? I have to do it until it's right.
Yeah.
Something like he's trying to, I think he thinks he can stop his father if he kind of does the I mean, this is a stretch, but maybe the suicide was a sort of ritual.
I thought that too, and that's why he kept doing it, because it felt like he needed, at least in my head, I was like, well, he needs to get the pieces to fall the exact same way it did for his dad to, I don't know, end the madness. So I read it that same way too.
Yeah,
but I think it's just written so brilliantly.
I mean, it's very much open to interpretation.
And I think that's what makes it so strong, because if she had come out and like had overt, like, my father is a ghost and he's haunting the house and he made this house in a certain way so that he could come back. I mean, that vibes a certain way. It certainly still would be cool, but it doesn't have that sort of lasting intrigue that like being kind of just vague enough has. Because as they do say, he's on speed, so it could just be psychotic.
Yeah, it kept making me think of, a little bit of, and just a little, maybe because just the art thing, but Velvet Buzzsaw. I don't know if anyone watched that.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
So just the kind of idea of crazy artists. And then I feel like I've brought this up before, but there's this book called The Unauthorized Biography of Ezra Mass, and it's kind of about this. It's like this weird amalgamation of like interviews and biography and then like articles, and it's about this artist called Ezra Mass, who sort of like a Banksy character, but not. But it's kind of the same as this, where it's just like it gets really weird, and like he did something, and there's these footnotes throughout the book, and like you can't tell if it's Ezra Mass writing these footnotes or somebody else, and like it's just this weird, trippy kind of book. And I kept thinking about that while reading this, because you're kind of like, something, like there's something happening off the page that we just don't know.
I mean, I also just like stories about artists. And I, as much as I am a writer and I love reading the story about the crazed writer, like it's done so much. But like, like a visual artist isn't done as much.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting, like even just from the artistic side, where he describes like, like the piece, it's not even so much the remnants of the bike. It's like, I am part of the piece, because like it's how fast I go and how I hit and all this other stuff, which is also crazy to think about, because you're also like, wait, but no one's there. It's performance art for no one.
I was just thinking that too. It was like, just imagine
when you're first reading it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, but then you're like, wait a minute, no, but there's no one there to see it.
Yes.
It's just for his own edification.
And like himself lining up and like getting up a hill or whatever, and he's like, all right, this is the one. And he goes like, they don't talk about him like missing the tree. It's like, damn it. Gotta go back again. I gotta try it one more time. Gets his shoelace caught.
Until I get it right.
Yeah.
And just the visual of all these like broken bikes too.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like if someone was like, hey, you want to come over? And you're like, yeah, sure. And you show up to their house and it's nothing but broken bikes in the front yard.
Yeah.
Don't mind that pile of bicycles over there. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, can I move? Like, no, you can't touch them.
No. I love it for the he pays extra to have the workers put the bikes back.
And they're like, what the fuck? Okay.
Like, do they take pictures to know where it is? Like, how does he know they put it in the exact same spot?
I mean, they must. I don't know how they remember.
It's those voices in his head will let him know.
Yeah. Because I could just like, oh man, I was just picturing it too. Like I'm out raking, and then I'm like, oh crap, I put this wrong piece in the wrong spot.
You gotta like talk to your supervisor. Like, was the wheel facing the tree or away from the tree?
Was the Huffy sticker on the top or on the bottom?
Was the handlebar at an 80-degree angle or a 30-degree angle?
Yeah.
That's the practical stuff they would have to deal with.
Yes. Were the tassels spread out or together?
I don't know if he was using a bike with tassels.
It's got the little basket on front with the dinging bell.
Baseball cards and the spokes.
Bikes, so you gotta wonder if he switched from like mountain to BMX. More of like
I just want to see him racing head on to like a giant oak tree and ringing the bell and ding 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 ding. Thunk.
He's got like one of those helmets that have like dinosaurs on them.
What I want to know is what happened after like the last interview and before this writer decided to publish his article.
Yeah, I was just wondering that. Like if he did kill the artist, I don't know if he would have published the article.
No, I assume it was just like he eventually talked him down, was able to leave.
Yeah, he was like, fuck this, I'm done.
Yep.
But yeah, in terms of the artist, I don't know, man. I mean, he doesn't seem like a well person.
No.
There's definitely something going on with him.
If he isn't dead, he probably will be dead soon.
Yeah.
It's either the ghosts or the visions from Speed, or he's just mentally unstable.
It could be
maybe because of the speed and trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably got terrible head trauma at this point as well.
Oh man. Like, how did he like get to the hospital, fix his like arm and foot?
They never even go into that. Yeah. I assume he just called 911. I don't know.
I mean, like, assuming he has a cell phone.
Yeah, but like the ambulance after a while would be like, we need to do something about this guy.
And if this is like a residential area, could just be people living on the street that he's crashing into their tree.
Neighbors just watching. Oh, here he goes again.
I did picture it as like a big compound type of a thing. And so all the trees are like behind the fence.
Yeah.
I would hope so, at least. That'd be a little sketch if it was just a neighborhood.
Vukovic is at it again.
Kids ignore his house.
That's a very different story. That's like, you need to stop crashing your fucking bike into my tree, all right?
That's my side of the property. Keep your shit on your side of the property. That broken fucking pile of bicycles over there, it's killing our property values. Clean that fucking shit up.
Live in a junkyard. Come on. Oh my God.
I mean, I do like just the details are great. Like that they had the house open for tours, and then as soon as this guy came in, he was like, "No, we're done. No more tours."
Yeah,
so it's like picturing like a museum or some sort of historic landmark, and then they just decide, "Oh, we're going to close it," and you're like, "Well, why?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know."
Yeah.
not really sure. And you look through the gate, and there's just like some guy crashing a bike in a tree.
Sleeping in the laundry room.
Yeah, which is interesting because at the beginning, the book or story, it's like the house is set up. Like it's got like a dining room table and all this like teak furniture. So it's just like he didn't clear it out. He just let it as is and is just sleeping in the laundry room. It's such a like again, it's like this. He didn't want to touch anything.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much of that is part of, I don't know, maybe trying to like, maybe it's part of the ritual, like where everything is.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
That's also implying a lot. Like that's implying that there's some sort of ritual involved at all, and that it isn't just his father somehow unlocking a way for his ghost to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot in this little story.
I mean, I've read it now probably 10 times. So
it's a Catholic Koja story. Are you surprised that there's a lot packed into this little story?
Nope.
And I just love how crass the whole, like, what if he crawls in my ass? And it's like, it's funny, but then when you like actually think about it, you're like, oh,
yeah.
Well, what if?
Yeah.
And then the imagery of him, like, if he comes out of my mouth, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's had to travel that whole digestive system route. Ass to mouth.
Well, even that whole thing, it's like, he was like, Mr. Vukovic, would you rather not continue today? You seem very, and he's like, I don't seem like anything. I am. You would be too. Maybe you will be. He doesn't like me to talk to you, you know. So I was up all fucking night last night listening to him crawl through the pipes. I was afraid to take a shit, you know, because what if he decided to crawl inside me? I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put anything past him. The interviewer's like, perhaps you should reschedule.
Yeah.
And then he just goes, perhaps you want to shut the fuck up and listen to what I'm telling you.
It's oddly funny too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fun how crass the story is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about it is like, it's like this great gothic horror ghost thing, but then there's just this artist that crashes bikes that's like, what the fuck do you want?
Possible butt ghosts, perhaps a demonic house.
Maybe it's just speed demons.
There you go.
Oh, nice. I see what you did there.
Yeah. That's a good one, right?
Double level. Super deep.
But no, for real, like, it's just a really good story, and I need to read more stuff by Catholic Koja.
Yeah,
I mean, the collection is like, I've read the collection twice now. It's great.
The Kindle
and it was
there
tough, by the way. Like, there were two others. One was called Road Trip, and the other was Coyote Road, maybe, that I was between, and then this one. And it was like, it wasn't the easiest choice. I mean, the others aren't as crass as this one, obviously. But they're definitely super heavy. Like, not to spoil it, but Road Trip is just this guy who goes to this kind of like New Agey Christian meeting, but there's supposedly this woman that can like heal you, but like actually heal you of things. And then you find out over the course of the story that he got in a drunk driving accident and killed his daughter.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
So it becomes this really like intense moral thing too of like, if it works and she can heal him of any kind of guilt, should he not feel any guilt?
Interesting.
But like, yeah, they really. And then the Coyote Road one is just this like woman who's caring for her dying mother who's since passed, and she just wants a dog, and she goes to this place and gets a dog, and then it's just all sorts of just weird stuff happens. Not like funny weird stuff either, just kind of like the dog. Weird stuff. Like, I'm so excited to have a happy puppy, and then she gets it, and it just like sits in silence.
Oh, jeez.
And then like she'll go to sleep and wake up to it just like wailing, and she's like, "What is it?" And then it stops.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
Does the fun hole make an appearance in any of these stories?
No.
Aw.
This one's, what I love about it is there's a lot of them tonally are very similar to Velocity, where there is this sort of vague quality to them where you're like, well, what actually did happen? And by the way, that can annoy the shit out of me when it's done incorrectly.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people that abuse that because they just don't have anywhere to go with it. But I know Kathy Koja is like an outstanding writer and actually knows what she's doing. So
yeah, definitely.
And sometimes it's better left to the reader's imagination than it is to spell it out too.
Yeah, that's something I have trouble with a lot of movies is obviously they have producers and they're trying to hit a wide net. So they're like, we have to explain this, but it's like so dumbed down and over-explained. And that can sort of kill a lot of the magic sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Which on like the other side too, sometimes you get movies that don't explain shit. And then like I personally really like that.
Yes.
Really like that take where it's just like, hey, this is the world of the movie. You're gonna sit down and you're gonna try to figure it out instead of like being spoon fed to you.
Like Willy's Wonderland.
I still haven't seen that movie. It something about Nicolas Cage in a non-speaking role fighting.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. They don't explain why he doesn't talk, but you're just like, oh, this is cool.
He drinks a lot of soda. I'm not sure how he doesn't have diabetes.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Prisoner of a Ghostland to come out at the end of this month on Shudder.
That looks insane.
I think you can rent it right now, but I think it's a paid rental.
Yeah, it's a paid rental. I'll just wait for it to Shudder, and I'll enjoy it then. Definitely. Because that movie looks bonkers. But like, for instance, like I think Mandy is a movie, Nicolas Cage Mandy, that like they just kind of
Barry Manilow's Mandy.
The director just kind of puts you in this world and doesn't explain anything to you. And by the end of the movie, you really don't still understand what's going on. But the movie itself is just such a fucking experience that like it's worth it.
Amazing.
I really liked recently. There was one called, well, not too recently. I think it was 2018. Starfish.
Oh, I really liked Starfish a lot. That was a good one.
But it's overt about this woman, how her friend has died to an extent. But then there's like this whole kind of like Lovecraftian apocalypse scenario that they just sort of don't explain. And it's pretty great because it's just like, you're on this one. It's like personal apocalypse versus actual apocalypse. Nick
it's a really good
movie. Good story like that too. That I think is called Migrations, and it's just like this son caring for his mentally ill father who's in this mental hospital who's started to hallucinate. Like the dad hallucinates he has this other son.
Oh jeez.
But at the same time, there's like a Godzilla type kaiju event occurring, like some really weird thing, but like you only get glimpses of it. It's like it was all over the news, so I shut off the news, and then you're like, he's listening to the radio, and it's just like abnormal weather patterns, and just shuts it off, and you're like, what is happening though? But it's just great because it's just like if Godzilla invaded, but it's in the background.
That's amazing.
Because you would still have to live it's like COVID. Like you still have to live your life. So
right.
It's just sort of happening. I don't know. Like depending on how bad it was, I think you'd probably still go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you hear about that big dinosaur thing? It's getting closer.
It's getting close.
It's the new water cooler talk.
Yeah.
Man, that thing just breathed like fire on that building the other day. You sure it's okay for us to be here right now?
I didn't like that building anyway.
That paperwork ain't going to file itself.
I can't believe we still have to come into work for this shit.
But yeah, I do love that style. I just love that kind of like, I know what you want, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I actually really enjoy that take, personally speaking, but
it pisses people off, but I like it.
It does.
But it pisses people. It pisses people off that like want everything really spoon-fed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, look at when movies or whatever do that wrong. Like, the original Blade Runner cut with all of Harrison Ford's narration.
Yeah.
And, like, how all the director's cuts are better than that because they got rid of the narration.
Yep.
Just, like, little things like that.
No, it's true. I mean, I definitely, it's not a new problem, but I don't know, lately with the movies it drives me nuts because it's just like, just really trying to over-explain stuff. Like, well, I want to see Antlers, by the way, but I've heard kind of mixed takes, and like one of the things I've heard is like they kind of are more overt in terms of what is happening, whereas in The Quiet Boy by Nick Antosca, what I like about the story is it doesn't come down really either way about what specifically is happening.
Sometimes in the visual medium, though, you have to be a little bit more overt.
Yeah, I mean, I get that you have to, you know, it can't be this, like, idea space thing. Like, you're like, okay, but we literally have to show a thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a difference when it comes to that aspect of it.
There are workarounds, though. You can have it, like, just kind of, like, quick glimpses. But, yeah, I mean, you know, that's not... I guess it depends to audience. If you're trying to have, like, a really big horror movie, like, that's just going to piss people off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I come to pay to see Monster. Why no Monster? But I really do want to see The Quiet Boy or Antlers. Like Antlers is
Antlers, yeah.
The Quiet Boy is such a good story, and I want to see like how they. I hear it's really good. The movie.
I've heard some people say it's good, and I've heard some people say, eh. So,
yeah.
I want to watch and see for myself. I hope it's like renting soon because I don't really feel like risking my life to go see it in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandable.
I went and saw, what was it, Green Knight, like however many months ago. And it was like in the theater, and it was going to be like back to normalcy, man. And then we showed up and like no one was in a mask and like there was no distancing in the seats. And it was just a nightmare.
Gosh.
And after that, my partner and I were like, let's not go to a movie for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, we lucked out when we saw Halloween Kills. There was literally nobody in the theater. It was just us.
Nice. Yeah, we made the mistake of, I don't know, I got cocky, I guess. We went on opening night, so it was like every seat was packed.
Jeez.
It is a wonder we're vaccinated, but it's a wonder we didn't catch anything. Because people are eating, you know, they tell you to wear masks, but then people are eating and drinking. So
yeah.
I saw Dune opening weekend and IMAX, and that was packed here.
Jeez.
So,
which IMAX?
The one up near Boston Common at the AMC.
Oh, okay, cool. I used to go to the one in Reading, I think, and I'd go to the one in Natick sometimes too.
The Natick's the best one, but that's also the one that
they
sells
used to have a Kelly's attached to it. I'm pissed they got rid of it. I mean, I don't know how pissed, but you know, like it was just this weird. Like I can go get a roast beef sandwich before a movie.
No, I can't anymore.
And now I can't. Now I have to drive a full 10 minutes.
Oh my God, it's back.
But I will say thank you so much for joining us in this conversation, Sean.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. I mean, I've been dying to talk about this story with somebody, and my cat's sick of hearing about it. So
that's good to talk about with some people. Then, where can listeners get in touch with you? And if there's any books that you want to promote or anything, now's the time you can drop them.
Well, don't. No. Let me see. On Twitter at SpookySeanT. I have a press. The Twitter for that is at NickDictatingB. No, I didn't intentionally make them rhyme, but books was taken or too long. The press I run is Nick Dictating Books. Recently, we released a novella called House of Blood and Teeth by Maxwell Bauman, which is a haunted house body horror thing. And over the next couple of years, we're going to have a collection from Paula Ash, a kind of poetry story hybrid collection from Tiffany Morris. May have a novella from Sarah Walker. Might have something from Garrett Cook. And then there's going to be a 90s slasher novel from me, as well as I'm probably going to drop the first part of a sea monster novel I'm working on as a separate novella, since it's like a different time period. Mm-hmm. So
Nice.
a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. And
Good.
yeah, if you want to contact me, Twitter's probably the best way. I'm on Facebook, and you can message me through that as well, but probably Twitter's the easiest way.
Perfect.
Oh, and my full collection, Screaming Creatures, is available on Amazon, and so is Astrum, which you guys covered.
Yes.
Yes. Astrum is a really great story. Like that was so much fun to read and cover.
Thank you. It's actually part of I do have a mosaic novel that's written that Astrum was part of it. It's just like a short story collection with a wraparound, but people call that a mosaic novel, so I've been calling it that. And yeah, it's got Farmington Correctional, which was put out through Planet X Publications. That's actually still available, I think. Astrum, and a number of other stories I've had in various other places over the years.
Nice.
Cool.
All
Awesome.
set around Whispering Pines, I should say.
Perfect. And Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
Twitter at BrandenburgDM.
And Mike?
You can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856.
And you can find me on Twitter at Rudy53088. And this is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.